All right, and we are jumping in. We're going to be looking at the client access. This is going to be the lab portion of Exchange. So before we get started, probably an easy thing to get started. If you do not have Office downloaded onto your personal computer, and we do not need to worry about the client test computer. That was only for the desktop management side of things. We don't really need it for anything else here. We're actually just going to install it on the local computer. So if you don't already have Office on your computer, you can follow this really simple piece. Remember, every user who has a Microsoft 365 E3 and above, as well as an Office 365 E3 and above in terms of licensing, you have access to Office, as long as you have the trial, that is. But you have access to Office. So if we come over here and log into the portal, you'll notice that when we come onto our page here, we have this option where it says Install Office at the top right. You can click on that there, and you can download the Office apps. And just download that directly to your computer and it will install. As long as you still have your tenant or your trial tenant and your trial is still active, you have full access to Office, Outlook, OneDrive, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those, as long as you have the trial going. So you do get a period of time, but for the scope of this course from a learning perspective here, perfectly fine. Go ahead and download it. Pause it here, download it. Takes probably about 20 minutes or so. You can install it and get it ready to go and be good to go. So what we're going to do here is we're first going to look at, well, several different things, but the first thing we're going to look at is OWA. So we're going to look at the Outlook on the web or Outlook web app, and I will interchangeably. I apologize. I've been doing Exchange for almost every iteration, and it will always be OWA to me, but I will try my hardest to make sure that I'm talking about Outlook on the web and OWA interchangeably. So we are not going to go to the Exchange Admin Center. We don't really care about that. We want to hit the little waffle here at the top, and we want to go to Outlook. Now, I'm just on my admin account here just to show you. So again, we've seen this already. So we saw this in one of the previous labs. Not really that big of a deal, but now I want to dive a little bit more into the feature set of things that we can do here. So I'm also going to open up another browser here on the other side, which of course is incognito. And I'm going to show you several of the functionalities that we get, one of which is called FreeBusy, which is one of the most important pieces of it. All right, looking at the mailbox, you can see here's our mail. We have all of these tools that are available to us on here, and you'll see one here is called Focused. We see Focused and we see Others. Some people love Focus, some people don't. It doesn't really matter what your thought is. By default, it's turned on for the organization and for every mailbox. We can't shut it off. Users can shut it off if they click the little cog up here that says Settings. One of the options here is Focused Inbox, toggle the switch, and guess what? It's gone. We want to customize the experience here, the web experience. We could do that. Hey, maybe we want to do some cool circuit boards up there. That looks kind of cool. Or maybe we want to do pretty rainbow unicorns, I guess. So that sounds fine. We'll do that one there. So inside here, we can have a little bit of customization. That's cool here. We can also set that as dark mode. This is one of my favorite pieces, is this new option for dark mode. I like dark mode, especially when I stare at a computer like I do, 12, 15 hours a day. Looking at dark mode is a lot easier on the eyes. So that's just me. We can also set up desktop notifications. So remember when I said that, we had a little bit of difference between the two, back in the day where we had Outlook, the Outlook Thick client, and then we had the Outlook web app. They were different. This is one of those gaps that has been bridged. And just to show you over here, we can actually set up notifications that if I just keep this open, I'll get a little pop-up. You'll hear the bling. You've heard that before. You get a little bling when I get a new piece of email, and that's cool. But that's fine. But what if I wanted to include some desktop apps or notifications on here will actually show up? And now you can't see it because I'm not sharing that part of my screen out. But on the main side there, you'll see these notifications. They'll pop up in here, and they'll actually show up on the desktop under the Windows notifications here, which is really cool, and it's helpful. So just one of those little things. Want to change some of these pieces on here. Again, I'll let you decide. However you customize this and however you want it to, that's completely up to you. But the idea here is just to show you we have the options of really customizing quite a lot. We can do compact, which kind of makes everything there. We could do cozy, which I'm kind of fine with, but actually like roomy personally. That's just me though. So we have a ton of other options. I'm not going to go through all of those, but just to show you here, we have a lot of different things that we can do. We're going to come through a couple of these, but not really that much. So we'll show you some of these functionalities, but let's jump into first the mail. we've seen the mail here. We have options for different things. We can see we have 12 unread messages. If we want to read messages, we can just click them, open them, and then if we go to another message, it'll automatically be marked. You can see the number went down. Again, this really isn't all of that, we'll say, magical. However, we do have some cool options here where we have snooze. This is a new feature here where we can pop up that this particular email is this one here. We've detected a critical alert. Now, you probably have these, which is fine. Don't worry about them. That's just the AD Connect sync. It's not working, which again, we have them shut off, so who cares? We're going to snooze this to tomorrow, and it actually disappears completely. So tomorrow at 8 a.m., I'm going to get that message redelivered to me. So it's a way of snoozing these messages just to keep them out of my mailbox so you can redeliver them at a time where it makes sense for me to be able to finish them and read them. Now, there's one thing I use is this unread status where we can filter. So I just want to see my unread. I use these almost as flags. So I can filter out all the red stuff. I've already done those. Those are already good. Well, this one here, I want to filter out what I haven't done yet. And I have an option where I can just select everything if I want. If I right click on it, I can mark them all as red. And you see, went boom, 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 all done. Now I have no new messages right now that are set to unread. Put the filter on there. Again, we have nothing. Great. That all looks fine. Wonderful. As we continue on, we will also notice that inside of here, here's my PIM digest. There's different things on here, but we said some content in this message has been blocked. Again, that's because it's not on the safe senders list. So we have the ability as a mailbox to do different things. You know, we could say that this is junk. We can block this account outright from sending messages to us. We could mark this as phishing, which goes up. And again, we've talked about these here already. We do have this one. This is archive, which is an interesting one. I don't exactly know what the purpose of it is, where we can just click archive. And it goes down to this one, archived. Now, it does not go to the archive mailbox. It goes to this folder, which is archive. Again, it's just there. We'll kind of keep it as such. Just another one of these tools of customizing your mailbox. Everybody likes doing things completely different from the next. So I'm not really going to say it's good or it's bad, because everybody's is a little bit different. But let's just say here that I don't want to use the unread red. I want to do different things. Well, I can categorize this mail, and I can have these different categories. So let's just say that, we have blue category. I mean, that's cool, but what the heck is blue category, What does that even mean? Well, if I come here to manage categories, we can say that blue category is, HR. And then we have red category is immediate need. So just to show you, I can categorize, and you can see that this is categorized by HR. And this one here, maybe we want to categorize this one as an immediate need. So you can see, here's my different categories. We have the ability to sort. We can sort by category. We can do, lots of different things too. It's all ways of keeping this here, and we want to say, hey, everything that has immediate need, all we have to do is click on it, and it'll automatically show those categories. Again, cool stuff here. These are just ways of organizing your mailbox. Nothing major. I'm not going to go super deep. Remember, this is a technical perspective here, not how to use Outlook. So overall, we get some really cool things on here. But let's look at a couple of scenarios on here that are important, one of which are rules. Okay, so rule sets. I want to do some automations around this. This is where Outlook, and in particular, the Exchange piece here that really, from an end user's perspective, allows us to be pretty powerful. So I'm going to create a folder. So I'm going to right click on Inbox, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Old Stuff. So you can see I have a subfolder under there. However I want to organize things, that's cool. So if we want, we come over here, and we see the little cog that we've been to before, and we go to View All Settings. So you have an option over here under Mail for rules. Now currently I don't have any rules, but if we click Add New Rule to Old Stuff after 1 week. Maybe I like to keep my mailbox super clean. Well, what I could do here is I could set these up. Now these look very familiar, or they should at least, based off of the transport rules. These are pretty much the same exact concept here. They're a little bit they're easier designed for end users. But what we can say is that, let's see here, anything received before, we'll do yesterday. We're going to move to old stuff. I can run the rule right now. I can add additional actions or whatever I want. I'm just going to do something here. Looks easy enough. See over here, there's some things that are happening. This is a rule that's happening in the background. Look at all of these messages here. This is just today's messages. Everything else has been moved over to old stuff. Now this is a rule that is just running, and it's not going to really do anything because I don't have any new mails coming in here, but I could do different scenarios. So for instance, let me go back to the rule set. We'll create a new rule here. Getty. So what we'll say here is if it's from Geddy Lee, what are we going to do with it? We can mark it as red, mark it as junk if we want. We can mark it as importance or automatically categorize it. So let's just say that, hey, it's immediate stuff. Anything that comes from Getty is always going to be immediate. So if we save it, you'll see it'll run in the organization here, and this Getty one here, which immediately put as immediate need. Now here's the cool part about this is that rule's running in the background, okay? And we don't really have to do anything. So just to test out, and again, as I said, I have another, my Geddy Lee account is open in another window here. So if I were to come over here and send a message, I'm going to send an email from Geddy Lee to myself inside of the organization. And as you see, that was immediately marked as immediate need. And then we can filter all of these. So we can categorize things on different scenarios. Maybe if you want all messages from your boss to be marked as different scenarios, that's fine. You can do that. Based off of things that are coming in. We can get very, very creative here. As I said, and that's the whole point of these rules here. These are client-side rules that the user has complete ability to do whatever they want with it. They could set these up and just let them do it. Just ways of organizing their mailbox. Again, all great stuff. All right. From a mail perspective, honestly, I think that's perfect. That's plenty enough for us to have our conversation around what we can do on here. There's going to be some pieces like this one here where it's got general, all employees unrestricted. We'll get to that, what that truly means in time. We'll do some other scenarios here too. But let's jump over to this. Here's our calendar. So here's one of the productivity pieces of Office 365. Now obviously I have a very light calendar, but I'm going to create an event on Wednesday. Create new event. And it is going to be all day training. Now I'm not going to invite anybody on it, and of course if I want I can, whatever I want to do here, put little balloons. I can customize this however I want. They're just cutesy little things there, I suppose. We're not going to invite anybody to this, but we are going to mark this off here as all day because I'm going to be training. Now there's a couple things that I can do on here too. So right now I can set it as free, working elsewhere, busy, tentative, away, or I can mark it private. I'm going to put this as away because I'm outside. I'm out of the office because I'm going to be training at a different location. So I have the ability here to just create it. Very simple. We're going to hit save. You'll see that I have this all day training. And when I click on it, it's all day, as the name applies. And if I edit it or double click on the piece there, you'll see that, all right, cool, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. If I go to more options, you'll see I have all of these. I will be away. Okay, well that's easy. I put a calendar invite on here. Or a calendar for myself. I'm in all day training. Easy enough. I'm going to bring over Geddy Lee. Geddy Lee wants to create a new event. He wants to invite me to a birthday party. Like it automatically changes that based off of the categories you put in here. So this birthday party is going to be on the 27th, and it is going to be at 12 p.m. until 1:30. We'll have a little bit longer of a lunch. So here's the birthday party, and that's going to be fine. It's going to be wonderful. But I want to invite him, and we will pick him. Oh, no. As you see here, we'll go ahead and got it. As you see on here, we have availability issues. So if you come over here, it says that I am not available. It says that one person is not available. Oh no, this person can't come. Well, that's not good. What's going on? Well, what we can do here, this is what's referred to as free busy. So what we can do here is we can come over and we can hit this little scheduling assistant. This is a wonderful little tool, and it's been around for a very, very long time. But when this thing isn't working, this is where we start running into some issues. So if we come back, so here's July 27th of when I have that. As you see on here, I'm away. I can see on here, I'm away all day. You know, I'm out of office. So I'm not even available that day. Like, oh no, that sucks. I can't, Matt can't come to my birthday party. All right, well, maybe if we want to see, hey, when is the next best option for us? Well, we can do that. There's actually some things that we can do here. Let's go ahead and discard that for the time being. So they will actually give you suggested times underneath of here. When's the best time to do this? Well, we have Thursday. Looks like a good day for everybody, so maybe we can jump over here to Thursday. Let's try to do Thursday the 28th. Hey, everyone's available, so we'll have to move my birthday party over to Thursday. Now again, it's only 2 people on this one here, but imagine if we had 10 people on it and everybody had their calendars up and everything. You could see that this is a very important piece of this puzzle, is that, these are very, very important nowadays because you got to be able, everybody's got calendars, everybody's super duper busy. So what will end up happening is, hey, we're going to have our birthday party. That's great. And we're actually going to set you as working elsewhere. So in this instance here, we've set it. We got the times that make the most sense for us. And if you notice here, we automatically have Teams meeting. We did have a little pop-up here that says all your meetings are online now. Well, this automatically makes it as a Teams meeting. This will actually create a Teams invite and as well as a team meeting attached to it. Now, since this is just a birthday, we don't need to do a Teams meeting here. We're going to leave it as it is. We could, of course, put the different times of reminders and such. And of course, we all know all that stuff works. But what we're going to do there is we figured out the time and we're going to go ahead and send it out. And you'll see that, hey, there's the birthday party is currently set. Coming over here, and you probably heard the little bleep right here, looking inside of Outlook here. We have, oh, okay, well, so-and-so, looks like Getty just invited me. The meeting details, we didn't put any agenda or anything like that on there. But, here's the message. Just send it to you when it's coming and all of that. That's fine. So when is it? Oh, it's going to be there. I have no conflicts. So I have an option here. I can hit yes, maybe, no. And I also have an option of not emailing the organizer. I can also propose a new time. Hey, I might attend, but I'm double booked. Maybe we could try this time. Or no, I won't attend because I'm busy and we're going to need to change it to a different time. But since I like Getty here, I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And then you'll see immediately I get the birthday party that gets added to my calendar. Come over here. And I now, if I come into here, I can see that I have a yes who is coming. So he accepted on it, and I expect him to be at the birthday party. Now, again, that could be whatever. That's really, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But let's look at some of the other functionalities on it. Really, when it comes to calendars, that's about it. But what I want you to actually see on here is the functionality of calendars. There's some other things that maybe we want to do on here. So in this instance, I remember when I was trying to add Getty Lee was trying to add my account to the birthday party, but he saw that all day long I was unavailable on the 27th. Just said I was away, but I was like, okay, well, what are you doing all day? There's no way that you have something going on all day. How do I know? Well, the only way we could do it here is that we get free busy, which is just the standard information and the things that we see on it. What we also can do here is add other calendars. So I'm going to try and add Alloway. Add to people's calendars. Sounds good. So I come over here, and now I can see you got checkboxes in both. I can uncheck mine. So all I can see right now is just away. That's all I can see. If I click on it here, I don't get any other information. I just see that you're away, you're working out of the office. That's it. And you can see that I'm working elsewhere. So remember, I am Geddy Lee looking at Matt Alloway's calendar. Okay, well that's fine. This is delegation. Remember the delegates that we were talking about there? Well, this is one of the ways that we can do calendar delegations. So let's come over here and let's just say, since Geddy Lee and I are good buddies, well, maybe I want to do different permission sets. So maybe I want to share people, specific people. So G Lee. What I want them to do. Can view when I'm busy. I want tiles and locations. Can edit and view all of my details. Well, it's fine. We can do delegate as well if we want. Let's do view all details. We'll hit share. We can also set the default for people inside of my organization. So this is going to be everybody. Can view when I'm busy or free. So that one's a pretty simple one there. This is going to take just a little bit of time here, but it will come in to the point where Geddy Lee, and actually if you come over here, says you've been able to share it. I will accept it. Let's come over to the calendar here. And we have to wait for this time, of course, but it will show up here eventually. We'll be able to see everything. We're just going to wait a little bit of time here, but not really a big deal. Just want to show you that I will be able to see everybody's, his entirety of his details of that user account. There we go. So we can see now is that we have birthday party, so we both have that on our calendar. And if I just uncheck Geddy's here, we have it in Matt Alloway's. Again, I'm looking at it from Geddy's is that I have all day training, and then I can see the birthday party. So again, if I see this all day training, I'd be able to see all of the details of this one here. So calendar delegation allows us to be specific on whom we want to give this out to. We do have the ability here inside of this to be able to share outside of the organization, granted we have an organization relationship with them. So by default, I just can't share out my calendar. So again, if we come over here to calendars, my calendar, excuse me, and I want to share this out to, we'll do, my Gmail account. I can't do that. It's going to say that. And I could share this out here, but what's going to end up happening, I'm going to get stuck. And the reason being is because I actually have to go to Exchange. As an admin, of course, this has to be set up, and this is by design. We can't just share out of free busy details. That could be difficult, or that could be security implications there, of course. But if we come over here to it says organizations, and we see sharing, I skipped over this before in our transport lab because I want you to see it here on the client access side, which makes more sense here. We can set up free busy between federated Exchange organizations. So this allows us to be able to share out to other federated organizations. This is where we have to set it up to, and we can just come over here, create the name and the domains, and then we can create free busy information sharing. So this allows us, this is a security feature obviously that we want to lock down to only specific domains. We absolutely don't want all domains. Alrighty. Another thing that we can do here through the calendars, there's obviously so many other pieces of it, but again, how does this all work in the back end? Well, it's actually quite a fickle web service. So it's called Exchange Web Services, EWS. And what ends up happening here is that they're making calls to each other. So there's a lot of this is done through APIs. So they're making web calls to each other to see these different functionalities. Inside of Exchange Online, this actually works really well. On premise, that's a completely different story, but we're not going to go too far into that there. We also have the ability to do group ones on here, which again, my personal account in here, my admin account, I can open up the marketing group because maybe I'm a member of marketing and I want to look at the marketing calendar. I can do that. So that would be like maybe a vacation calendar for marketing, something like that. So I could see, hey, who's on vacation, who's not on vacation, so on and so forth. So cool stuff out there. All right, let's look at some of these other functionalities. We have people, and I'm going to breeze through these ones here because, again, these aren't necessarily mind-blowing here. We can have contacts. Hey, we want to add, these are personal contacts. We've looked at these already. We've already looked at the default address list for contacts. So if we come to all contacts, remember that one that we created a lab or two ago was Bob Smith. Hey, there's Bob Smith. Created Bob Smith. That's the global one. I can't really do anything with this one here, but my personal contacts, if I create a new contact in here, I can change it and do what I want with it. All cool stuff. Moving along here, we have these files. This is my OneDrive integration with it. We'll talk about that when we start talking about the modern files and such. To do. This is another one that we're going to get to in time, but this is just another one of those productivity type apps. This is going to be having a discussion in the modern files section. But what we can do, and I'll just give you a high level overview, is I can do tasks. Hey, clean the bathroom. Of course, it's just going to clean the bathroom. That's a task that I have. Maybe I want to put a date on it. Hey, that's due next week. Maybe I want to put a reminder for tomorrow. And maybe I want to repeat it. I don't know. If I want to, I can. I don't have to. But there you go. I've added the task. And then I come in here and I can say, hey, this task is completed. And you heard a little bleep that just ended up happening there. So I come in and I check it off. And I create all these tasks. Cool stuff. Again, these really come into play. These are just individual tasks. Nothing too major here. I'm going to go back. We'll go back to people. But again, those are easy enough. They're just basically a way of keeping productive, and keeping a kind of a tab on your productivity. Yammer also does have an integration on that. We'll talk about that when we get to communications, as well as bookings. Bookings is kind of a small little thing. It's not really that big of a deal, to be completely honest with you. I don't believe we actually have any booking calendars out here yet. Yeah, we don't have one yet, but bookings just allows you to book and automatically put some. So, all right, I have these 2 blocks of time. Pick one that works best for you. It's a cool thing, but honestly, we're not going to dive too far into it. It's just one of those apps that are available. We can do additional ones on here, but I'm starting to get outside of the scope of the client access side. Now, we've looked at Outlook on the web here. We've looked at the calendar. We've looked at FreeBusy. We've looked at delegation. But this is all on OWA. I haven't left OWA yet, or Outlook on the web. I haven't left this yet at all. So what else can we do? Well, why don't we go through the process here and start looking at what is Outlook, the Outlook client, as well as Autodiscover, because Autodiscover is one of the, like I said, the lifeblood of Outlook. So let's go ahead and minimize this here for the time being. And if you have your Outlook client that you downloaded from the way I told you before, we're going to open it up. I'm going to do call a profile. If you do get this, you may not get this one here, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to do this as M. Alloway. You'll probably get something similar to this. That's going to search for accounts on your computer. If it does find a personal account or maybe a Hotmail account or something like that you have, or even if it's a business one that you're using on here, that's fine. We're not going to use that, of course. We're going to type in our own. But in this instance here, if we had a hybrid joint computer or a computer that was just specifically designed for our lab environment, it would find that on there. But it's not going to find on this one here, so it's eventually going to time out. Which, there we go, finally did. So, that's another one of my lab environments there. So in this instance here, I'm going to create my M. Alloway at Pocket Square, spelled right, of course, professor.live. We have advanced options that on here where I could set it up manually. We're not going to do that. Because again, I'm just a regular user. I just want to be able to set up Outlook for me. So what's going to end up happening here is it's going to do a search. And it's going to, something went wrong and I couldn't set up my account. Well, there's a couple of reasons here of what's going on. PocketSquareProfessor.live. That's not you? Oh no. Maybe we need to change the account settings. Let's try Get Elite. At PocketSquareProfessor.live. Just make sure I got that spelled right, of course. Now, Geddy Lee here seems to be working. Well, why didn't it? Well, we'll explain in time. But for now, right now, if you use Geddy Lee or one of course, you don't have to use Geddy Lee. Obviously, whatever the name is there. That's just what I chose, of course. Feel free to pick whatever you wanted. But in this instance here, it's going to ask me, okay, well, it's going to sign me in. And again, like a good person, I'm using multi-factor authentication. So in order to connect Outlook, I am connecting through multi-factor authentication, and I'm forcing multi-factor authentication on here. Remember, tokens through modern authentication are based off of session, client, app, location, and the device as well. So we'll get this option here where it says say sign in all your apps. Do not click any of these. We're going to click this little one here, do not sign in, because what ends up happening is if we click OK and allow my organization to manage my device, it automatically enrolls it in Intune and also, excuse me, not in Intune, but into Azure. It Azure AD registers this device. We don't want to do that. We just want to hit no sign into the app only, and that's all it does. So right now, I just typed in my username and password, so I've authenticated. It's going to go directly to Office 365 and configure it. Now, configuring it, we didn't have to touch anything. It's done. You know, I'm going to leave it as it is. It says account successfully added, the GLE successfully added, but this set Outlook on my mobile phone, that's checked. We're going to uncheck that. We don't care about that. And this other email address, if it does pick anything up on there, this is another lab environment. Don't worry about that. We're going to go ahead and hit done. Now again, what was happening there in the back end is Auto-Discover. Auto-Discover is a magical service because it does a lot of things, but it's actually much more simplified because everything nowadays is automatically going to Office 365. I got a little pop-up over here that says Outlook is setting up a local copy, which I'm sure you do as well. But when we log in, we will see a couple of things. So remember, Geddy Lee has several different things on his account. And we'll see over here just to show you. This looks very similar to the way the Outlook on the web looks. I mean, honestly, this stuff's pretty much all the same. But in this instance here, we're going to go ahead and close that out. In this instance here, we have all of these things. Remember, we have Focus before. We saw that on there. Ooh. Focus is kind of annoying. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But we do actually have the ability, and think we have, yeah, now we can shut it off on here. So it says Show Focus Mailbox under View. We can shut it off. Come back to Home. Couple of things that we get on here. Here's some cool stuff. So because we are administrators of some sort, Geddy Lee is a SharePoint administrator, remember, so he's going to get admin notifications. This is Microsoft's way of communicating to you to say, hey, there's following issues. At this time here, it is resolved, but users could not access the Microsoft Teams desktop app via authenticated proxy servers, which again, that's such a small number of people anyway. It was minor, but again, something Microsoft, according to their SLA, they got to keep up with. So that's cool. I like these. These are helpful, especially if you're an administrator. If you're not an administrator, you won't see these, of course. So we hit close on it. We click on the icons that are in here and the emails. Again, these all look very similar. You know, everything is pretty much the same as it was before. However, if we look over here, we'll notice we have IT support. So if we click on IT support, hit the little caret on it, we'll see that, hey, remember this? We set this to everybody in the organization. So remember this account on here? Well, we have it automatically mapped. So this is a little bit different. This is one of those nuances that we don't get when we utilize Outlook on the web. We don't get some of these features. This is one of them. It's called auto mapping. When somebody gives you full access to a mailbox, doesn't matter what type of mailbox, but as long as you get full access to the mailbox, in Outlook on the web, you have to manually add it. In the Outlook desktop client, it auto maps it. It automatically configures it and attaches it to it. So it's just a convenience factor here, of course. Same thing with Online Archive. Those are attached to you in the cloud. And the Outlook on the web, we see those before. And if we come down here, we see that same concept applies. We have the archive and all of that. So looking at all of these things on here, we will see everything down here. And we see connected to Microsoft Exchange. Everything is connected. How do we know what things are connected to? You know, we come over here, we can see, all right, here's our birthday party. Remember, I still have delegate access. I can click on Matt Alloway. I have a little bit of a nice option on here where I can split between the two. Remember, I have that all-day training. I was able to look at it. You know, all easy, all cool stuff. Again, this is nothing new. We've seen this already. Same concept applies here with the contacts. You know, again, simple things. Tasks are available here, which are to-do. They feed off of to-do, as you can see on there. We also have the ability to look at the Organization Explorer. which is a helpful scenario. This is going to actually work through Delve and several other things here, which I don't believe I actually set up. But this will show you people that you work with frequently, even though it kind of just shows these on here. But if we do actually have manager fields and such set up, we'll actually be able to see who works for who and be able to see the organization hierarchy. So all cool stuff. Now, let's look at this here as a whole. Remember, we just typed in the username and the password. We authenticated, and it automatically took us directly to Office 365 and connected everything for us. It automatically did this, mapped it for us, did all of those. How's that working? That's through Auto Discover. So, I can't show it to you here. I'm going to bring it over to the screen, but if you go to the Outlook icon, if you go to on your machine that you're currently on, if you're on a Mac, you can still do it this way, but you have to actually do connection status. So in order to do so, we have to go to, and you know what, I can do this just to show you here. We will go to taskbar settings, and I'm going to bring the icons over there for you. And I'm just moving it over, so show taskbar multiple. There we go. So, yeah, that's actually kind of nice here. Main taskbar on the one. Looks cool there. Okay. So we are going to move some of these pieces over. So if you come over here, you will see on yours, you'll see next to it there's a little caret. Now mine's over here on my other computer here because it's the main screen that's on there. But looking at it, you'll see right next to the clock there, you will see the Outlook icon. So it says Microsoft Outlook. If you hold Control and right-click on it, you will see an option where it says Test Email Auto Configuration. And when you click on it, it will open this, the Test Email Auto Configuration. So we're going to type in glee at PocketSquareProfessor.live. We're going to type in the password. We are going to use Auto Discover. We're going to uncheck GuestSmart and GuestSmart Authentication. We're going to click Test. So what happens here? So remember, all of those protocols and services I was talking to you about, EWS, Outlook Anywhere, Mappy over HTTP, Offline Address Book, all of those things that we've been talking about, well, they all have URLs to go to. These are all URLs. And you'll see on here is that I have an external URL and an internal URL. These are split. So if I'm inside the organization versus I'm outside the organization, and guess what? They're all the same. It doesn't matter. So they're all outlook.office365.com. Now in this instance here, we have all of these different scenarios based off of Auto Discover. So Auto Discover is a service that automatically configures our Outlook profile. And if you see on here, here's that the HTTP, we're doing server, which is outlook.office365. Here's a login name. We're using SSL. We're using mutual authentication, availability service, out of office URL, offline address book, unified message service. That one's really not that used. But again, looking through all of these, here's the Exchange control panel, several different things of it. We're able to get the OA URL and Mappy over HTTP URL. So this is essentially, this one right here, Mappy over HTTP, is Outlook Anywhere. So this is how we're able to get our Outlook Anywhere connections. All of this is done in the backend. You know, it's all been touched, it's all been configured based off of Auto Discover. Auto Discover is the service that is most important when it comes to Exchange because it automatically configures things. You just have to type in your username and password, automatically configures everything in the back end. As long as everything is set up correctly, you're good to go. You don't really have much to do. So again, we have a full XML response if you care to look at it, of course. It's a lot of information on here, but again, none of this stuff is super important because the results are the biggest piece. We do have a status here, which we have a 401, which is good, and then we get the 200, which is the response succeeded. All right, looking at Auto Discover, this works for every Outlook type client that's out there. Okay, so whether it be native ActiveSync, so if we go to our iOS device, we type in a username, we type in the password, Auto Discover is going to go find all of the URLs and automatically connect to all of them for us on behalf of that username and password we typed in. Same thing with the Outlook mobile app for iOS and Android. Outlook on the web, or OA, We don't have to use Auto Discover because we're just going directly into the mailbox. So we don't need to do that. We're actually going to it. It doesn't need to come to us really. So we're just going straight out to it. Cool. Easy enough there. And then we also have the Outlook client, as I said, and we saw that working really in action. So there's lots of different things that we can test here, but I just wanted to show you that this is a great testing tool to test to make sure that Outlook Auto Discover is working and it is able to connect, because that's one of the biggest factors when you're unable to connect with your mailbox. A lot of problems come from having Auto Discover set up incorrectly. Now, you don't really have to do much because it's all DNS driven and Microsoft takes care of 95% of it. You don't really have to do too much. On premise, it was essential. If you had failure in Auto Discover, you had failure on so many different things. You would always have to configure your servers manually, tell it where to connect to, how to connect, what type of authentication, all of that. You don't have to take care of any of that anymore. Auto Discover is taking care of it all. So I just wanted to show you that tool there that was available to us. So there's one last thing that I want to show you here is I'm going to move the Outlook client and I want to bring up this here. So we're going to come over here and I'm going to use the last thing here is the availability service, which really comes along the lines of I want to set up some out of office replies. So we have automatic replies. We're going to turn on automatic replies and we're going to turn this on at a period of time. So I am, just say today I'm out of the office. I'm going to block my calendar for this time. I'm out sick. Oh no. I'm going to automatically decline new invitations and decline and cancel all of my meetings during this period. I am out sick today. Please contact Neil Peart for help. Now I can do this. This is for people inside of my organization. And if I want to, I can also do for people on the outside of my organization if I want. And it probably makes sense to do so here. So we'll go ahead and save. Okay, and you get a little alert on here that says you have out of office replies. And if we come over here to the calendar, we will see out sick. So today and into tomorrow till 5 p.m. So what does this mean? Well, I'm out sick. Oh man, darn. So I'm going to create a new email. Bring this over here. I'm going to send this to M. Alloway, which automatically completes there. I need help with something. Now immediately you'll see there's a policy tip. Oh no. So you see there's a policy tip up there that says Matt Alloway, which is the person I sent, is I'm out sick today, please contact Neil Peart for help. So before I even hit send, I get this policy tip that pops up. This is a really cool feature here. This is a nice training feature. But before I even hit send, I'll know that this person's out of office. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Then I'm not going to do anything. Maybe at this point here, so I'm going to contact Neil, but I'm going to CC Matt just so he's in on the chain. So I'm coming from Geddy Lee. I'm sending this message. So I sent that message out. What's going to happen here is I'm going to get a response in just a second. I'll go ahead and mark all of these as done. So, coming over to, there we go. So I got a response. I'm out of sick today. Please contact him for help. So now again, I know, automatically reply. Now again, if I'm responding from the outside of the organization, I'll get that same response there that says, hey, I'm out of, contact so-and-so for help. So they can essentially work through it. The out of office and the availability URL here is really important for these types of situations. I'm on vacation, contact somebody else. It's just a way of so emails don't go to it and just kind of die there and people start getting a little upset. That happens. So we want to basically be able to keep track of that and just keep it on the to make sure that everyone's communicating with each other effectively. You'll see this little icon next to it. Everything looks cool. So overall here, there's one last bit that I want to show you, and this will kind of wrap up this particular lecture. We're going to pull up a wonderful testing tool. Now I'm just going to go to Google here, and we're going to be test connectivity, spelled right, Microsoft, that's good enough, test connectivity Microsoft. And we're going to get the Microsoft Remote Connectivity Analyzer. So if we're having problems, this is a fantastic tool. If we are having problems trying to connect. We have all of these tools that give us an option of testing. Let's check out FreeBusy. Outlook connectivity. What's going on? Let's try Outlook connectivity here. So we're going to click on Outlook connectivity. Remember, we were having that problem before with that M. Alloway. Pocket Square Professor.live. Something's not right. Something's not going on here. So we're going to sign in through our modern authentication. So one problem with these cheap domains is that they are very big. We're going to authenticate. We're going to use AutoDiscover to detect it. We're going to connect to Office 365, which is default. We also have Office 365 operated by 21 ViaNet. That has to deal with China. It's not really that big of a deal. There is when we're dealing with China from a compliance perspective and many other factors there, that's a big deal, but we're not really going to talk too much about it for this course. And then we just do a verification to make sure that you are not a robot. You are good for 30 minutes. Of course, we want to read this notice and be familiar with it. I understand that I must use the credentials of a working account, which again, this is a working account we're trying to test. We click Perform. Now what it's going to do is going to give us an output here. This is a troubleshooting tool that is available to us. It successfully completed. Well, that's strange. What happened? On our computer there, we were having some problem. So it was successfully able to attempt AutoDiscover. And if we drop this down here, we can go to all the steps. AutoDiscover service was tested successfully. We tried to hit the URL, which is autodiscover-s.outlook.com over port 443. AutoDiscover, AutoDiscover XML. We can see that autodiscover-s.outlook is resolving in public DNS. TCP port 443 is open. It's not blocked by the firewall. The SSL certificate is valid. IIS configurations, client certificate authentication, all of that looks good. And then we're getting a post. So we're getting a response for AutoDiscover URLs. And if we open this out here, we actually can view the response. This is an XML response. Now, I don't expect you to understand what any of this is. And to be honest with you, this is super difficult to read. But we can get all of this information. Here's the authentication method. We're using OAuth, which is modern authentication. We have all of these different, here's all of the URLs, here's the response. This is basically what we saw when we did that one test on the client. Same thing here, but this is just the overall aspect of it. This is what the computer sees and talks about. Okay, well then after that we were able to successfully connect. AutoDiscover looks good. Now we come over here and we try to make a MAPI over HTTP, which is, remember, this is always MAPI over HTTPS. They just omit the S here on this because that's what the protocol is. But it's always MAPI over HTTPS, always. So then you can see here, port 443. All right, we were able to connect. Security, that looks good. Authentications, all look good. I can actually hit the MAPI address book point. I can actually hit the mail store and actually come down to the mailbox. I'm able to log in. So what was wrong with it? I don't know. There's a very good chance maybe I fat fingered it. Maybe we have a setting incorrect inside of Outlook. I don't know. But we will figure that out in time. Or whatever it was probably just some transient error. Not that big of a deal. All right. Looking through this test here, we've looked at FreeBusy and what the server does. Again, just look at some of these Office 365 tests that are available to us. We can do FreeBusy. We can do a mail flow test here as well, where we have inbound SMTP. Hey, here we've got M. Alloway. We want to test. We're doing that. We're just going to hit perform test. Look what happens. Test steps. Hey, we were able to find the MX record for PocketSquareProfessor.live, and we were able to connect to the mail exchanger. And coming in, so we can see here's that one that's snoozed, and that'll be delivered here in just a second. But we will actually get an email in here, which seems to be moving a little bit slow here right now, but not a big deal. We'll get an email in here that says, hey, we were testing the connectivity of it, and it works. So we're able to test inbound mail flow. We're able to test a lot of different things. So again, we can go through all of this scenario on here, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But again, this testing tool here is one of the greatest things that you can actually test. So again, looking at from an ActiveSync device, if I click on it here, since everything's already saved, why don't we just keep everything? Let's perform that test. ActiveSync seems to be working. Now, again, you'll start seeing this is a very common process. Auto-discover first, always use auto-discover, find all the URLs to connect to, then it automatically connects to the URLs, then it tries to do the communication to those URLs, SSL, make sure port 443 opens, then we actually try to authenticate, and then we try to log in. Here's all of the pieces that we all attempted to initial sync to the mailbox. Sync completed successfully. We were able to have some mail in there and essentially delete it and synchronize. So everything looks good. We were able to connect. Everything's good across the board. Pretty cool. So I love this tool here. This is a great tool that is available for testing and also for your own usage as well. So feel free to test this one out and go to town on some of these tests on your mailboxes if you want. It's up to you, completely up to you. But again, these are available for you, especially in the field. I use this one relatively frequently, not as much anymore, but that's how this a lot of works nowadays. So. Okay, overall, we have covered a lot. We've looked at the Outlook client, we looked at availability service, FreeBusy, we've looked at out of office, we looked at the mapping, auto mapping, how all of those pieces come into play. One last little thing that I want to show you is, again, if we control right click on the Outlook icon where we did the test email configuration, if we go to connection status, which is the one right above it, come over here to the Outlook connection status, you'll see that we have, here's all of the connections and where they're going. So here's the account, here's the display name, and you'll see we have an online archive, there's 2 for IT support, we have the 4 up here that are top for the display name. What's going on with all this stuff? Well, they're all connecting to Office 365. They're all using MAPI over HTTPS. We can see we use a protocol, HTTP, which again in this instance is HTTPS, just remember that. We are using this authentication that says bearer. If yours says clear, you are using legacy authentication, and that is bad. If yours says bearer, you're using modern authentication. And we can see that we are encrypted here via SSL. So what are these different things here for? These are directories. So this is the offline address book, and these are anything that says mail are going to be all of the MAPI connections connecting to it. We have foreground and cached versions of this. So we could see where they're connected from and all of that, and we could see some average response times and stuff, which is fine. Again, like this one here is a little bit high, but not really that big of a deal. So just to show you here that these are the active connections that your Outlook client is currently making right now. So just to be aware of, just a nice little thing there. Okie dokie, that is the last piece that I want to talk about from the client access side. That is a lot. We've talked about a lot on this one here, but I think it's all very important to understand how these things work in the production world, because there are things that we want to make sure that are covered, and we want to make sure that the users themselves, we got to understand how it works under the hood. So at the end of the day, that's how these things work. In Office 365 and Exchange Online, a lot of these things here are super easy to work with. On premise, they're not. They're not as easy to work with, so they're a little bit more difficult. With that being said, we're going to leave this as it is. We are good for this particular lab, so thank you for attending, and we will talk on the next one. Thank you.